back to Sledgehammer Horror, guys. I am Ken Sledge, and let's talk horror.
And I'm Ashley Sledge.
Yeah, sorry, I forgot about that part.
You forgot about me.
So, how's it going, everybody? Thank you guys for coming out. Today we have Destiny Faulkner, we have Rhine1988 Justin, and we have Haunted Hippie joining us. Destiny, how are you doing tonight?
I am doing wonderful. How are you?
We are awesome. Justin, how are you doing tonight, brother?
I'm doing great. Thank you for having me. It's great to talk with all of you and meet you both. I've never met you before, so this is awesome.
Super excited for this. And Kylie, Haunted Hippie, how are you doing?
I'm great. Any excuse to talk about this franchise. Let's do it.
Yeah.
So I want to say first hello to everybody in the chat. We got Good Real Hunting. How you doing? Shaim, how you doing? John, Natalia, Ava, Rob, Nathan. I know Nathan can't stick around too long because he hasn't seen Scream 5 tonight, or seen Scream 5 yet. What's up, Marsh? How you doing, buddy?
Hey, guys.
So obviously we got to say it now. Today we are going to be talking Scream 2022 first. What we loved, what we didn't love, how it was and there's going to be a lot of spoilers. So if you haven't seen Scream 5, stick around. You're going to get a better viewing of it now. No, I'm just kidding. If you haven't seen it yet, you might want to tune out. Check it out. It's an amazing film that we all very, very much enjoy. So, oh, hey, J-Deb.
What's up, Jason? What's going on? We love
Scream
you.
2 all the way.
Of course.
I knew that was coming. I was like, oh, Jason's going to be in here and we're going to hear it. So before we get started with what we're going to be going into Scream 2022, and then after that, we're going to be doing a total review and a total franchise ranking of every movie in the franchise. So that way we could let you know our updated franchise ranking on this. Mud, just saying hi. Yep. Understand, buddy. I hope you enjoy the film. So before we get started, let's start with you this time, Kylie. Haunted Hippie. What can you tell people that don't know about your channel, what you do over there?
I do a bunch of different stuff, but my main focus lately has been doing my original verse remake series. So I started with like House of Wax, Texas Chainsaw, Friday the 13th, kind of like their verses series they just started. But I do more of like a heavily researched kind of a vibe and like compare things from a very analytical point of view. But you know, I throw jokes and I like to be educational but fun. I'm like that wacky teacher you had, you know what I mean? So that's kind of like what I do.
It's so funny because like we literally put this thing up about verses like a day after Kylie put up, or Haunted Hippie put up something about her original versus remake. And I literally texted her like, dude, I'm not biting your shit. I swear to God. She was like, dude, you're totally fine. I get
like,
it.
yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, no.
Yeah,
We have a different style with it. They're not really the same. Like we might cover the same movies, but they're pretty different.
Yeah, I think you guys should definitely check out Kylie's as well. It's amazing over there too. We got Sean here. Sorry to miss the top 10 love. I was under the weather. Hey, man, I really hope you're feeling better now. Thank you for joining us now. Hey, Heather. I've been trying to work with Heather for a long time, so hopefully me and her are going to get to work together here soon as well. So Rhine1988, what can you tell us about your channel over there?
So my channel, I talk about physical media, Blu-rays, 4Ks, DVDs, movie memorabilia, nostalgic stuff. You know, I love all movies, but my favorite obviously is horror movies. So I talk a lot about the genre. 13 years on YouTube, so been around for a long time, still loving it though. And the channel is about positivity, love, and happiness. So
Awesome.
Absolutely, emphasis on the positivity, love, and happiness, for real. So Destiny, you have not started your YouTube channel yet, but you do a lot of stuff on Instagram. What can you tell us about that?
Yeah, on Instagram, I like to do normal makeup looks, and I like to do like SFX makeup looks combined, you know, horror and makeup. I really like doing that, and I do like cosplays sometimes, not like full-on cosplays. I'm not that good, but I do like to like dress up like the movies and stuff, and just to show off like my VHS collection. I like taking those pictures and stuff like that, but it's mainly pictures of me trying to look different. That's all it basically is. And sometimes I do Instagram lives where I just sit down and just talk and talk and talk. So that's
it's a
basically
blast,
it.
We always have fun with your Instagram lives.
That's awesome.
Thank you.
So, Destiny will be starting a YouTube channel this year. She promised me, and if she doesn't keep that promise, I get to bend her finger back till it touches that hand.
Yes, we agreed on that. Yeah, we agreed.
So before we actually get started on our spoilers, I just want to catch up on the chat again real quick. If we're talking spoilers, I think Dewey should have died like he did, but we figured out he faked his death and he is the mastermind behind it, and they unmasked. Okay. Haunted Hippie is a great channel that I found last year. Ben, what's up, buddy? Kyrie.
Hi, Kyrie.
That's my daughter's best friend. What's up, Steven? Hey, Daniel, how's it going, buddy? I still believe that Beth from season 3 of the TV show is the best, I'm assuming.
Oh, I agree. Won't spoil that season, but I agree.
See, and we did not include the TV show in this, just because with this we're going just full theatrical release film. So the first thing I want to talk about was Scream 2022. So if you guys haven't seen it, now's the time to shut it off. Real quick, I do agree. Haunted Hippie is the best. Check out her channel.
Oh.
And you guys, I have Haunted Hippie's channel and I have Rhine1988. I have both their channels down here. And after this is over, I will have Destiny's Instagram. So you guys can go on there, follow her on Instagram and watch all her material as well. No. Is this your favorite horror franchise?
Scream?
Yeah.
No.
Destiny, is this yours?
I love
Yes.
it nonetheless, but it's not my favorite.
Haunted Hippie, is this your favorite?
I don't know. Like, it's really hard between this one and like Final Destination and Child's Play.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Child's Play for me. We just talked about this actually before we went live, Steve. That's really funny that you bring that up because before we went live, I actually said I think that Scream is probably the best horror franchise. I think when it comes to consistency, it's probably the best. Child's Play is my favorite. What about you, Justin?
So Scream's not my favorite, but it's top 5. My favorite is actually the Halloween franchise. So the original Halloween is the movie that made me fall in love with films and made me fall in love with horror movies. So yeah, Halloween franchise. But I want to give a shout out. I love the fact that you mentioned the Final Destination because that's one of my favorites too. So
Yes, it's so
Love
good.
that.
Love them, all of them.
I'm ready for this. You what?
Even part 4. You know, it's
Same.
a bad fun time.
It's a fun one.
It's just a
it's so
good
bad
time.
it's good.
Exactly.
I'm one of the people that consider Final Destination a slasher. I mean, I think it's a total
I do
slasher
too.
film.
I do too.
Yeah, I love Final Destination as well. Hey, what's up, James? How you doing, buddy? I watched Final Destination for the first time today. It was so good. I'm so jealous that you just got to experience that for the first time. That's so awesome, Natalia. So with Scream 2022, we're getting into spoiler territory now, guys. I want to talk about the opening of this film. What I love about this opening is they purposely didn't kill somebody in the opening. They've always killed somebody in the opening.
And it's always been like a big name actor too
Yes.
that they killed. Like that's kind of like their thing.
Right. And I love the brutality of the attack at the beginning.
Yeah.
And like I said, I love the fact that they purposely didn't kill the person they were going for in the beginning. She was bait. So
Right.
we'll keep going back and forth, reverse and forward, but this time we'll start with Destiny. What did you think of the opening of Scream 2022?
I really love the opening. For me, compared to the original, this is probably my second favorite opening, mainly because I watched the trailers. I didn't watch some of the TV spots, but I did watch like the official release trailers. And watching it, the trailers, mainly that whole opening part, there's a lot of the opening, and watching the trailer, I was like, wow, that's like, it's kind of obvious, you know? I was like, that's almost too obvious. Like, I don't think that's exactly what we're going to get. But the surprise was that Tara lives, which I thought was awesome because it's something different. We're, 5 movies in now. It was cool how they kept it so similar to the original, but they still did something different. Like you said, she's bait. And so I really like that aspect too, because you're like, oh, why does she live? But then you find out why she lives. So I really like that. But they fucking go to town on her.
Oh,
Yeah.
And I was like, damn, you didn't want to kill her, but you got pretty fucking
Yeah.
close. Like, when the knife goes through her hand and she's like screaming, I was like, oh my God. Has some amazing shots of Ghostface, especially when he gets kicked down and he like stands back up and he's like walking towards her. I was like, this is actually like pretty scary. So the opening I thought was fantastic. A great way to start this movie off, in my opinion.
Absolutely. What about you, Justin? What are your thoughts on this one?
Oh, I love the opening. For me, it's definitely one of my favorites. It's I would say it's probably like top 3 favorite openings. I'm going back and forth between the original 2 and this one. But, like we talked about, it was a surprise because this is the first time that we've not had an opening kill. She actually survived. And there was a reason why she survived. But like we mentioned before, I think it's definitely probably the most brutal ghost face that we've had in the franchise so far, just because of everything that was happening in the opening. The knife in the hand, total surprise there. He's dark in this movie. He's creepy. He's eerie. But yeah, I loved it.
What about you, Haunted Hippie?
I don't know if I have many more original thoughts than that, but I guess because I was kind of comparing it to the opening of Scream 4, which relied, I think, a lot more on like campiness and stuff, whereas the opening of Scream 5 was just so dark. Like, it really set the tone for the rest of the movie, and I was very impressed. And I'll be the third person to say the knife in the hand really took me out. Like, it was insane. Just the way that set the tone, like, it had me so shocked and so ready for whatever was going to come next, because I wasn't expecting that level of brutality. I was like, oh my God, what do we have in store today?
Right.
And what I love about this too is, like you said, we know that when the first person we see is going to die. And the first person we see is Jenna Ortega. We're like, oh no, are you serious? Like, there's no way that they can do this right now. And, and I even like how the killer kind of clues you in a little bit that they know more than they should. It's like, I'm friends with your mom, and, she's a drunk. She, we met at, I know that she introduced you to horror movies. So they kind of are dropping little hints in there, like getting angrier and angrier. And it really leads to, once you watch this, again, I always recommend watch it more than once, especially this movie, because you pick up on so many things. Easter eggs we'll be talking about too. But while we're talking about Jenna Ortega, let's talk about the cast, the younger cast this time. Who was your favorite character of the younger cast? I'll start with you this time, my love.
Honestly, I loved all the younger cast. I think that they did a phenomenal job. But Mindy was probably my favorite, the twin.
Yeah.
I feel like she was a good, she was Randy's replacement kind of. And I just I loved her a lot. Like, I thought she did a really great job.
I got to stick with Mindy and Wes. I think Mindy and Wes were both great. Dylan Minnette, I love Dylan Minnette, and I think he's absolutely fantastic. And
I like how he was named Wes too. Like, for Wes Craven, I think that's awesome.
So I'm a big fan of that too. Way to honor the man that created all this. What about you, Haunted Hippie? Who was your favorite of the new cast?
Yeah, Mindy and Chad, the twins. I want more horror characters like them. They, oh my God, both of them, crushing so hard on both of them. Like,
and I love how when you meet Chad, you think that he's just this over the top jockey dude that, but then, like, he's one of the most real characters in the film. Like, I love when he's talking to Liv, and she's like, let's go upstairs, and he's like,
yeah.
I thought that was great. They're doing things that really do go back to the first one. And at this point, she's like, oh, my boyfriend would rather label me a killer than sleep with me, which is how Billy felt about Sidney in the first one. So I love how they do a lot of that in this film. What about you, Justin? Who was your favorite from the new film?
I'm gonna go definitely Mindy. She was my favorite. But you know what? I love the whole cast though. Like, this was probably my favorite cast since the original movie. Like, one thing I loved about them is I think they all had great chemistry, and you could see that even off screen, like they talked about it, but you see that chemistry and that friendship, and that's what I loved about it. Just amazing characters.
I just love how Mindy's like, and I'm gonna watch this movie and I'm gonna make out with her.
Yeah.
You're right. I loved it. I love that.
I love the confidence, Mindy. What about you, Destiny? Who is your favorite of the new characters?
Pretty much echoing what everyone's already said. I love this cast, and I do agree. Like, for me, this is my favorite cast since the original, because the original's so great. Because for me, there's not one character that I don't like, and it's kind of the same for this. Like, there's not one character I don't like. I really love Tara, and I really love Mindy. They're probably the standouts for me. And I really liked Richie as well. I love the whole cast, really, but those are probably my favorite.
And I agree with you. And something I want to bring up while we're talking about the young cast, the red herring of even through the trailers and when you meet him, of Vince, Kyle Gallner's character. You see him and like, wow, this guy he's a big name, especially in the horror world, whether it be Nightmare on Elm Street, The Haunting in Connecticut. Like, he's already made a name for himself in the horror world. And you see him and you're expecting to get a lot more of him, especially the way that he is as a character. Would you have liked to see more of him in the movie, or were you happy with his storyline and the way it played out?
I think I would have liked to see more of him.
That was the one.
Sure.
One of the negatives I could say about this movie was the lack of Vince. So let's start with you this time, Justin. What did you think of that?
I was surprised, but because I thought we were going to see more of Vince. And I like the actor, Kyle. I think he's great. And yeah, I wanted to see more of him, definitely. I think that was, again, one of my flaws is, like, there was characters like Vince where you wanted to see more of them and they didn't explore too much with them. There wasn't much of a development. His character would have been interesting if they would have, like, developed him a little longer. So, but definitely a surprise.
Yeah. See,
he was kind of a creep, but
that was the Drew Barrymore of this film.
Yeah.
Like, you're expecting, you see this, and he's a big name, just like Dylan Minnette. I figured we'd get a lot more of him as well, but you got these big names that are, rather quickly dispatched. So, what did you think about that one, Haunted Hippie? Did you like his character? Not like his character. Would you have liked to see his character get some more depth to him?
Yeah, I think so, because when the reveal comes that he is Stu Macher's nephew, right? I think it's kind of just like it's a moment that just comes and goes. Like, I don't think I even picked up on that on the first time that I watched the movie. It's really random, and so that's something that I wish had been a little more fleshed out, maybe. Otherwise, like, I don't know. I think if it hadn't been Kyle Gallner, I wouldn't have really minded. Like, it wouldn't have mattered that much to me. But it's just the fact that, like, you have a pretty good actor that was just really underused. But I don't know. I'm a little back and forth on it.
Yeah.
What about you, Destiny?
Yeah, I agree. I love him. I love him in Jennifer's Body. Well, any horror movie I've seen him in, I fucking love him.
Jennifer's
And
Body.
It's one of my favorite movies. So I was so excited to see him. And the fact that he got killed off so early, and like you said, it's kind of just like, here you go, and it's gone. That would have been really cool because, you have Sam, Billy's daughter, and then you have another person here that's connected to the original killers. Why not utilize that more? But I still enjoyed him in the movie. I thought his death scene was fantastic because, of course, we get Red Right Hand, which I freaked the fuck out in theater. I was losing my shit. And it's so brutal, which you see some of it in the trailer, so I figured he was going to go. I didn't expect him to be so early, but I love his death scene. I thought that was really great, but I, of course, would have loved to see more of him because I do love him so much as an actor. So it would have been nice. It would have been nice to see his face more.
He's one of my crushes.
Exactly. I just love him so much.
James says you all look killer tonight. He's talking about all of you. That you guys all look killer tonight. Now, this is something that I've been wanting to talk about, and I was going to get to it later, but we're going to bring it back now. Would any of you like to see Stu brought back? I'm going to start with you this time, Haunted Hippie. Go.
Yeah, honestly, yeah. I'm just like a little bit back and forth because now that there's so many fan theories about it, like mine included, I just reacted to my Scream 5 predictions, and one of them was that Stu was going to come back. And so now I feel like I'm expecting it too much to the point where it's like not going to be a surprise anymore. So now I'm like conflicted. I'm like, Yeah, and I love Matthew Lillard so much. Like the Scooby-Doo movies and Scream were like so formative for me with him as Shaggy and everything. So like he's the man. Of course I would love that.
Yes.
But now I'm conflicted because it's like everybody's talking about it. So I almost hope they don't do it because it like wouldn't be that surprising anymore. I don't know.
What about you, Destiny? Would you like to see Stu come back?
I am like the same. Of course, I love Matthew Lillard. Like you said, Scooby-Doo and Scream and 13 Ghosts. Like
Love
those
them both.
movies played such a big role in my childhood.
Love that.
But just like really, whenever people first started thinking about it, I was just like, no. Of course, I want to see him come back. If he came back, I would be so happy. But like when I really think about it, it just, for me, it just feels kind of weird, you know, like where has he been? He's been in prison. Why is he out now? You know, it's just like, I don't know, especially going this long, thinking he's dead this whole time. For that to be like an ultimate reveal, I would just be like, what the fuck? It'd feel like a soap opera in a way, you know? It's just like, whoa, wasn't expecting that at all. I would love for him to come back, but just logistically, I just don't know if it makes complete sense. And they even hinted at like, I don't know if y'all saw, because it was hard for me to see. I didn't realize it until someone posted a picture. Whenever dead meat pops up on when Richie's watching, there's like one of the little corners down there, and it said, "Could Stu still be alive?" And I was just like, I'm watching you. Like, I don't know if they just put that in there for the fans or if they're like hinting at something. So
Right.
Yeah.
I'm just conflicted. I don't know. It would be crazy and I'd be happy, but I'd also be like, I just won't. I'll just disband all the belief. Like I won't know. I won't know what to do.
Well, what about you, Justin?
Oof, this is so tough for me. Because I love Matthew Lillard. I Scooby-Doo, we talked about it, 13 Ghosts, underrated movie right there. I love that film.
Salt Lake City.
And Matthew Lillard.
Yeah.
Yeah. And Matthew Lillard is such a nice guy. I've got to meet him. He's very, very nice. You know what? As much as I would love to say yes, I'm bringing Stu back because, you know, I love Matthew Lillard. I just don't see how he've survived with, you know, being stabbed so many times and then a TV falling on his head. Like, I don't know. That's just me. But you know what? Being a Matthew Lillard fan, if he did show up, I wouldn't be angry about it or anything, or be like, "Oh, that's silly." I'd be like, "Oh, Matthew Lillard, love it."
Right.
So I'm back and forth.
What about you, Mark?
I also don't think it makes much sense. Like he literally got his head crushed by a really heavy TV that we used to watch back in the day.
This
like
was
this
a
isn't
90s
Yeah.
TV.
This isn't it.
It's not no
smart
flat
TV
screen.
that weighs 5 pounds. Like those things were heavy, and it landed on his fucking head.
Yeah.
And yeah, so I mean, if he does come back, like he's probably gonna look pretty fucked up from that. But other than that, I mean, obviously, if he did, it would be okay. It'd be okay in my book if he came back.
I'm a hard
Yes,
no.
I agree.
No, don't want him back. Love Matthew Lillard. I agree with all of you guys, but if he was still alive, we would have heard something by now.
Yeah.
Somebody would have at least said something. He would have been
yeah.
a suspect by now. You know, something would have
Man.
happened. To just bring him back now in Scream 6 or Scream Ends or Scream Kills or whatever you want to call the next one, like,
No, it's not.
wouldn't make much sense for me. Like it is, like Destiny said, logistically, and like just with the timeline. Now, if they did like a super meta movie, like Justin, you may appreciate this, like a Wes Craven's New Nightmare, where it was the
I love that.
actual actors, you know, like where it wasn't Stu, it was Matthew Lillard and Nev Campbell and Courtney Cox, and a real life Ghostface was around killing the original actors from the original film, and you found a way to bring Matthew Lillard back that way in a super ultra meta way. Sure.
I love that.
But yeah, you know, to bring Stu back now, you know, coming in on a walker, like, it was me the whole time, you know, like
I would have I think if he would have came back, if Stu the character would have came back, I think 3 would have been perfect. And I think he was supposed to come back in 3, and they kind of disregarded that. But I think if Stu were to come back for revenge, it would have been early on. It would not have been this late.
Okay, so now we talked about Stu coming back. Let's talk about something that a favorite for us. What was your favorite kill from Scream 2022? I'm going to start with you this time, my love.
Oh God.
Okay, I'll start, Judy. Yeah, because I didn't see it coming. Like It's broad daylight in the front yard.
Oh
You know,
yeah.
he's just and there was a point where in the theater I was like, she's dead. You can stop. I guess she wasn't that great in 4, but come on, man. Like, he just was hamming it up. So for me, it was Judy for sure.
I think I like Wes's kill. It was really suspenseful because he keeps like shutting stuff, and you're like, you think he's right there, like.
That was great.
Yeah. I liked that kill. That was a good one.
Great cinematography.
Yeah, for sure.
I love that. The anticipation of the
Yeah,
jump scare.
You know that it's coming, but it keeps going and going.
Yes, that was awesome. And the knife through the neck was
Yeah.
brutal. What about you, Haunted Hippie?
It's hard to say, like, I want to say like my favorite attack was probably Tara, but like she didn't actually die.
Right.
But then I like Wes's death is definitely up there, but like Dewey, I just like I can't really decide how I feel about it because sometimes I don't like Dewey in the first movie. In the 4th movie, I am not a fan of Dewey. In this movie, I really liked him, so it made his death all the more impactful. And it was just the way that he got skewered on both ends. I was almost like, this is like almost disrespectful, like how brutal Dewey's death is. I was like, how are they gonna do Dewey like that? I don't know. I just because I kind of assumed he was gonna die, but I didn't think it would be like that. So I don't know if that's like a good thing or a bad thing, but
Yesterday.
I think they had to fuck him up because, like, how many times has he been stabbed? Like, they're like, all right, he's getting it this time.
Because
like,
they knew if they just stabbed him, we'd all be like, okay.
Yeah, like he's coming back. You know, without an arm or something, but he's coming back.
Mhm.
What about you, Justin?
Oof. So this is, I will say that I don't want to say Dewey was my favorite death because I almost cried in the theater because I love the character Dewey overall. You know what? I'm actually gonna go with Kyle Gallagher's character, and it's just because it was a huge surprise. And I like the whole, it was dark outside. It was in a parking lot. I loved the song playing. I mean, that was like great homage to the original Scream. And again, it was just a surprise. But yeah, I'm going to go that death. That's going to be the one I pick. But there were so many good, it's wrong to say there were so many good deaths. There was a lot of surprising deaths in this movie.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. What about you, Destiny?
This is both my favorite and my least favorite because it's Dewey. I figured going in just from the trailer, I knew at some point they're going to kill one of them off, and I figured it was Dewey just by like the trailer. Kind of, you notice he's not at the end, okay? So I was just like, I was expecting it, but God, it did not hurt any less. I did cry at the theater, and not just a few tears, no. I was like sobbing in the theater trying to stop making noise because this is my favorite franchise. I love Dewey. I love all the characters. So even talking about it now, I get a little emotional. I was just, it's probably the most emotional like reaction I've ever had, especially in the theaters. So, and like you said, they overkill because it is to show, like, hey, he's not coming back, man. Like, this is really it. And it was just so, like, I knew, like, once he was walking up to the elevator, I was like, fuck, he's going to turn around, he's going to die. And it happened. But, God, when it made me jump, whenever Amber, I guess, jumps up and cuts him like a freaking pig, like, literally up and then down. And then, like, the way he pulls it out with both knives, I was like, that's a cool shot, but, fuck, I'm really upset. So,
I was too.
probably...
So
even
upset.
talking now, I'm like about to cry. I cried like the whole weekend. I was just crying. I would just think about it, be like, this is it, man. Like, even if I haven't gone back to watch any of the others just because, like, I know once I do, I'm just going to cry because I know he's going to die in 5. So definitely Dewey's.
I did cry at this movie. It was not when Dewey died. I cried when Gail first came back and her and Dewey were having that conversation.
Yeah.
Oh my God. When he was like, I don't need your sympathy, Gail. And they were having that. And like that, to me, that was not Dewey and Gail. That was David and Courtney talking at that moment. And like my heart was breaking in my chest. Like, and I was like, what the fuck is happening? There's water coming from my face. I don't understand this nonsense. So now we're going to get into something that may be controversial on my end. I really, really did not at all like the Billy Loomis stuff. What was your guys' opinions on the Billy Loomis visions, I guess? Your elevated horror of Billy Loomis visions. What did you think of that?
I thought it was kind of far-fetched. Like, she's Billy Loomis's daughter. And then, like, even, like, him, like, in the mirror and stuff, like, it kind of didn't look that good. Like, I don't know if it was, I didn't like how he looked. So, yeah, I wasn't a big fan of the Billy Loomis. I'm Billy Loomis's daughter, and I'm gonna be a killer someday type thing.
I feel the same way about that as I do about Stu coming back. Like, I like it, it's awesome to see him back on the screen.
Yeah,
like that's really, really cool. But I don't like, he's a vision, and I don't know, whatever. We'll start with you this time, Destiny. What did you think about the Billy Loomis stuff?
I thought when we first see it, so before this came out, I had heard there's going to be something in it that kind of hints at something with the original killers.
Mm-hmm.
So I figured there was going to be something, but what we got, like, as soon as he showed up, I audibly yelled in the theater. I was just like, what? And I was just like, oh shit, I'm in the theater. I was just like, what the fuck are we doing? Personally though, I don't hate it. I thought it was kind of cool just to see, like, Billy's like my all-time favorite killer of the franchise. So just to see him back on screen, Skeet Ulrich, that man is so fine. So he was on screen, and I was like, me and you right here. The de-aging did look a little off, especially in that in the car scene when it's bright and you could really see that it doesn't look normal. So it was a little weird, but I thought it was kind of cool to bring him back in some way, just because this is also my first Scream movie in theaters. So just to see like an original killer on screen, even if it's in like such short capacity, I was just like, wow, like this is pretty cool. It was different, which I appreciate that they're trying to do something different. And it's far-fetched, but also like Scream 3, Sidney sees her mom in that scene. So I was just like, it's weird, but it's not like completely unheard of in this franchise. So I forgive it for that. And I did like the end scene with Billy with the knife, like nodding over to Sam, like, hey, there's a knife here. You should use it. So I thought that was cool. Weird, but cool.
Hold it real quick. I did not. Did anyone notice Drew Barrymore's cameo? I didn't notice that.
I did not.
I think she's the voice of something at the, I think when they're at the school, and if you hear someone talking like through the thing, I think that was Drew Barrymore.
Really?
Yeah. Because
That's
Matthew Lillard voiced the Chrome ghost face in that video. That was his voice. So
what?
Little cameos.
Yeah. I thought that was cool.
Pretty cool.
Oh my gosh, I can't wait to go back and watch this.
So Justin, what did you think about the Billy cameos in Scream 2022?
I didn't dislike it, but I don't know if I loved it. I will say I thought it was really interesting, and it was a cool twist to the franchise that's not really been done before. I love the fact that they brought Skeet back though, because like it's been said before, that is man candy right there, and I just love him. Yeah, the fact that I think it's a really cool and surprising thing that they brought him back. And they were like, hey, let's bring Skeet back to the franchise, because he hasn't been a part of the franchise in 25 plus years, or 25 years. So yeah, I didn't love it, but I didn't hate it either. So interesting. I'll say that.
I didn't love the idea, but I did love Skeet.
Yeah.
Right.
What about you, Haunted Hippie?
Yeah, those are like really fair judgments, I think, because for me, my main issue with it is that like everything else about Sam was extremely neurotypical, and yet she's like having visions of her serial killer dead father. And like with the de-aging thing, I actually didn't mind that, because like she had never met him or seen him in real life. So I'm like, okay, whatever. Like they're just visions of him. Like it's fine if he looks weird. But yeah, I just was like, nothing about her, like these mental health issues that are like clearly very bad to the degree with which she is like hallucinating her dead father, didn't impede on the rest of her existence as Sam at all. Like didn't like it, that's the reason why she ran away from her family and stuff, and why there's like, this huge rift between her and her sister. But her interactions with people and her ability to like have relationships and stuff that's all totally fine. Like in all other ways, she was just completely neurotypical. And I was like, that just doesn't add up. I'm like, and so the whole twist in the end where she's like stabbing Richie, I loved that, but it also just like none of it really tracked for me, So, I'm back and forth, I guess, with that as well.
And I get that. Well, let's go from something that none of us really loved to something I'm sure we all did. Sidney and Mark Kincaid are married.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Like, can we talk about how epic and fucking awesome that is? Because when we first meet Mark Kincaid, we're like, oh, this guy's Ghostface. This is definitely the Ghostface of this movie.
Definitely. Yeah.
Yeah.
Definitely.
So what do you think about those two being
I think
married?
that's awesome. Because if you remember at the end of Scream 3, Dewey and Gail and her and Mark are all like watching a movie together. So maybe that's when the romance started, and now they have twins, and I think that's pretty cool.
So it's like a foursome, you think?
Probably.
Yeah, like boy swap, he swap. Okay.
Could be.
See, now the only downfall I think to those two being married is we didn't get to see Mark in this movie, which I get because Sidney was probably like, "Stay home with the kids.
Yeah.
I'll handle this. I'm Sidney fucking Prescott," which in her own words she said, "I'm Sidney fucking Prescott. I haven't died 3 times, Jamie Lee Curtis, but I'll handle my business. You handle the kids."
Right.
And I would have liked to have seen Mark. I would have liked to have seen an appearance. Even in a photo or something, but I get it.
They said his name.
Yeah, they said his name, which makes me happy. How'd you feel about that one, Kylie?
I love that. I love that for Sidney. I think it's so cute because like the end of Scream 3, it's kind of implied, and then it's just crickets in Scream 4, and so I'm very happy about it.
Mm-hmm.
What about you, Destiny?
Yeah, I'm huge fan of Scream 3. So as soon as she said Mark, I was like, oh my God. I was like, my boyfriend and I watched this, and he's seen the original, but he's not into horror movies.
Mm-hmm.
And so the whole time I was like hitting his arm. I was like, did you hear that? He's like, I don't know what you're talking about. But I was like, he said Mark, Scream 3, baby. I was like so excited. I like that because I always wanted Sidney to have a happy ending. I don't want this franchise to ever end because she dies. Like, to me, Sidney shouldn't die. Like, she's like the one final girl that like I will fight anyone over, that like I just don't want her to die.
Mm-hmm.
So the fact that she does have like happiness and she has a husband and kids, I was just like, that's cool. Because when I found out she was having kids, I was like, I don't know. Usually when my favorite characters have kids, I'm just like, oh, I don't want that to just be your, like, that's all you are, like I want it to still be that same person. So I liked how they handled that. You see she has kids. She's saying like, I have kids now, like I'm not going to stop till they're dead. I like that they weren't like the main focus. And same thing with Mark. I was happy that they weren't like, I can't die because my husband Mark is at home, like I like that they just kind of mentioned it. A picture would have been cool because it's one of those things like it's just like Mark and then that's it. So if you don't pick up on that, it just goes by so fast. So a picture to like really solidify that would have been cool. But I was happy because I liked Mark and I really liked the ending of Scream 3 because I'm like, oh, they're going to be together. Scream 4, we don't hear anything about it. So I really like that they included Mark because it's just something so small because people are like speculating like who's her husband. It's like Mark should be the husband. That makes sense because it's a character we already know. So I like that it was Mark. I thought it was really sweet. I'm happy that she has happiness because I just want her to be happy.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And what about you, Justin?
I think everybody has said everything I'm going to say, but I will say, Patrick Dempsey. I love him.
Yeah.
I really, as far as Scream 3 goes, he's one of my favorite characters. He's one of the most interesting characters in that movie. The character Mark, I'm happy that they mentioned him in this, and it's been said. I love Sidney Prescott. I love Neve Campbell. So I'm happy that she has happiness somewhere. She was able to move away from Woodsboro and live a life with a family. And it's amazing that these directors, and this is why I love them so much, the fact that they even mention Mark and they bring that character somehow into this movie is awesome. Because, again, Scream 4, no Mark, we didn't hear anything about him. We didn't know if he was alive, dead, what was happening with him. So the fact that they're in a relationship and they have kids and they're married, it's awesome.
Yeah.
And am I the only one that thought, oh, they have kids? That's Ghostface.
Wait, their kids are Ghostface?
The babies.
Their kids are Ghostface.
Little
Baby,
Ghostface.
scary movie, Mom.
Now, I do want to say this is totally true. You know how many people would be alive in the Scream universe if Sidney just died in the first movie?
So everybody involved in her death.
So, I love this franchise. I really genuinely enjoyed
Me
this
too.
movie. But before we get to our franchise re-ranking, I want to talk about, we've been talking mainly positive things, like what we love about this film, the things that we genuinely enjoyed. If you could pick one thing that you disliked about Scream 2022, what do you think your big dislike would be? I'll start with you, my love.
I felt like I knew who the killers were very early on in the movie. I very much so suspected, maybe not both of them, more the boyfriend. I just knew that I knew he was a killer.
Especially when he was at the hospital and he just got cut.
Yeah, he got cut. And Amber too, like I even like we would be like, that's a killer, but like when we were watching it. But yeah, I think that's my least favorite part of it.
Okay. What about you, Justin?
I would say like, and I didn't dislike it, but I would say like the third act could have been better in ways. I would like to have, well, let's see. I thought Amber was such a predictable killer from the very beginning. I was like, she's a killer. They kind of like turned you away a little bit, like maybe she's not, but I'd say just the overall third act. I think it wasn't bad, but it could have been a lot stronger because I thought the first act and the second act I loved. And the fact that we were going back to Stu's house and this was all taking place in the third act, it could have been slightly better. I had the same problem with Scream 4, though. I think that the third act in that one was a little weak. So, and the killers in the movie and Scream 4 the same way. They're not my favorite killers. They're not. I mean, they're bad guys, bad people, but they're just. I don't know. They're not my favorite killers. So
fair enough. Well, what about you, Kat? Haunted Hippie?
Yeah, I felt the same way. It's one of my least favorite killer reveals, probably besides like Scream 3. Just because like I don't know, the whole toxic fandom thing, I understand why a lot of people connect with it because of like the Star Wars fandom and like the Disney fandom and stuff like that. But even when I was watching like the live Q&A afterwards with like David Arquette and I think it was Matt Bettinelli-Olpin, I think that's his name, one of the directors was there, and Kevin Williamson, and they were being asked like, have you dealt with toxic fans and stuff in the horror community? And they're like, no, the horror community is like great and whatever. So that's why I kind of felt like a disconnect also with some of the commentary and like their motivations for being the killers, because I was like, you know, the horror community, they're like the best people you'll ever meet. And it's true, there are very toxic fandoms in the movie community in general, but like not really in horror, you know, like at least not to a large extent.
Right, I'll say you got a couple gatekeepers that are complete douchebags, you know, but the overall horror community, it's such a communal thing. Like the minute that we all, like I said it a couple days ago, like it doesn't matter if you're black, white, gay, straight, Christian, Muslim, Republican, Democrat. The minute someone talks about Freddy Krueger, I'm going to be like, welcome to primetime, bitch. And, you know, it's on at that point. You know, we're going to have a full-on conversation. And horror is one of the most communal things, I think, in the whole world when it comes to being a community of entertainment. And so I completely agree with you about that one. Go ahead.
I agree, too. I agree because, I mean, look at all five of us chatting here, all horror movie fans. We love Scream. I mean, the horror movie community is amazing. And I've met, you know, through social media, off social media, conventions, whatever it may be. I mean, I've met some amazing, amazing people.
And I've
only just met I've only just met both of you. I've only just met both of you, and I think you guys are amazing now. I mean, this is just fun to talk. So
just wait till you get to know them. What about you, Destiny? What was your least favorite part of Scream 2022?
My least favorite part, I guess, okay, so, which it was in the trailer, which I watched the trailer, you know, that's on me, but they did post behind the scene pictures of them at Stu's house, And so, you know, the way they play it out in the movie is supposed to be like this big surprise, but it's really not. Like, even if you haven't seen the trailer, you've seen these pictures and you can see, like, that looks just like Stu's house. And the way they do the camera, how she's on the phone looking at the porch and, like, tilts out, you're like, oh my God. It's like, we already knew that. So they really, I wish, which they kept so much stuff secretive about this, which I do appreciate. Like, looking at the trailers, I still don't think it shows too much. It just tips you off to, like, some things, but if they wouldn't have done any behind the scene pictures at that house and released them, like there's one of just like Kevin Williamson, but you're like, that's Stu's house. I know it is. If they would have like kept that under wraps, I think that surprise would have just been so much better for you to realize like, oh shit, we're back in this house. But also, I called Amber being the killer since she was casted. As soon as she was casted, I was like, that's a killer. Because she looks like a killer. And if you've seen Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, I was like, I know she's a killer. Come on. As I was watching it, I was like, yeah, she's definitely a killer. But
Sorry, I didn't mean to
go
interrupt
ahead.
you. Is she from Once Upon a Time in Hollywood? Because
She's the one that gets burned.
Oh, I knew it. I was like,
Yeah.
wait a minute.
And
Yeah,
it's
okay.
kind of funny.
I didn't mean to
Which
interrupt you. I apologize.
No, it's okay. I heard actually like that was already in the script. Like they already wanted Amber to die that way, and it just so happens to be her character from Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. So I was like, oh, that's pretty funny. But Richie's reveal actually kind of got me. I wasn't really, because I was watching this movie and I didn't want to suspect anyone. Like I wanted to just enjoy it. I wasn't trying to read into anything. But Mikey Madison, I was just like, I know she's a killer. Just look at her face. She looks like a killer. She's beautiful, but a killer. But Richie's kind of got me. That one, I was like, oh shit. I was like, oh my God. And I was just like, fuck, damn it, because I really like Richie a lot. But
I did too.
I've seen people like speculate, which to me, I was like, oh, this is kind of interesting because it's kind of taking like whoa, we're meta. It's like, I've seen people say like, what if they purposely made the killers predictable, like tips you off a lot that you know, for it to be like, yeah, we know that you know who the killers are. And it's like, I don't know if you're just trying to make it to where it's like, we're not taking credit for it being sort of weak killers, or, you know, it was just weak. But I was just like, it's kind of fun to look at it in that way, to be like, maybe they made them obvious on purpose. Like, that's kind of cool, because you're like, there's no way they could be the killers. It's too obvious, but then they are. But then again, you're already suspecting it. So I don't know. I wasn't like let down with it. I thought it was cool, but I agree the third act could have been cooler. I would have liked to see more Sidney and Gail. I think they do a great job when they are on screen, but it would have been nice to see them just a little bit more at least. Because like while I was watching it, I was like, this is really good. I was like, holy shit, we haven't even gotten these three characters yet. I was like, that's pretty cool, but I would have loved to see Sidney some more just because she's my girl. I love her.
Yeah.
See, and I gotta say that the third act was also the thing for me. Like, I actually enjoyed this movie more upon a second watch because I knew kind of what was going on, so I wasn't guessing the whole time. And whenever I can guess something, I'm pretty fucking dumb. So whenever I can guess something, I know, oh shit, damn, I guessed it. Anybody can figure this out. So, and I don't like the whole passing the torch and then she gets lit on fire, like the obviousness of all that. Like, I don't know, like the third act, everything after the reveal was pretty weak to me, but it was much better upon a second watch. And before we get into our franchise ranking, there's one last thing I want to talk about, the YouTube video where we get full confirmation that our girl Kirby is still alive. I'm in the boat of, I don't want another Scream. I think it's gonna happen. The movie was a mega hit. And I'm not gonna be, I'm not gonna go watch it. I'm gonna watch the shit out of Scream 6 or Scream 2025 or Scream Kills, whatever the hell they call it. I'll watch the hell out of it. But I would like to see it end here because, you know, Gail even says, I'm not going to write a book about this. They're going to die in anonymity. Okay. They're going to die. They're going to die unknown. Okay.
Yeah.
So I like the idea of we're not going to give them any love. We're not going to give them any credit. But if they do make a Scream 6, what do you think the chances of us seeing Kirby physically again would be?
I think the chances of seeing her are the same as seeing Stu. Like, I don't think that she's gonna like come back. No, I just think that they put it there to be like, she's alive.
Fan service type of thing.
Yeah, it was more fan service in my opinion. but I mean, it's like, yes, she's alive. Like, we're happy,
Right.
obviously.
Well, I think everybody can agree that's our favorite character from Scream 4.
Yeah.
You know, so to get that confirmation she's still alive is fucking
Yeah.
cool. What about you, Destiny? How'd you feel about that little tidbit?
I was so happy, which I've only seen this once, and because I was so focused on dead meat, I wasn't even looking at the up next videos. I was just like, oh my God, it's dead meat. I was freaking the fuck out. Even my boyfriend, because my boyfriend knows how much I love him. He was like, look, I was like, I fucking see it. They're on the screen right now. So I didn't see it until I got on Twitter and I saw that she was still alive. I was like, oh wow, like I missed that. I love Kirby. I loved her so much. I would love to see her come back. For me, if this was the end of just this franchise right here with this storyline, I would be happy because I felt like it was a good send off for Gail
Yes.
and Sydney. And I don't want to see either of them die. That's just like that's too much for me. So if they just go and they live a good life, I would be fine. But I think it would be cool if Kirby was the one to come back in 6 and kind of take over that sort of mentor figure and like help them out some more. They've already been through it once, but to have someone who's more familiar with it, I think would be cool. I was just so happy she was alive because I love Rory Culkin. Do not get me wrong. I don't like Charlie. I don't like Charlie as a killer. I feel like he's probably my least favorite killer. And so, which that scene where she gets stabbed by him, it did surprise me. I wasn't expecting him, but I was just like, she got killed because what? Because she didn't want to talk to him before? Like, that's so stupid. So
Right.
I'm happy she lived because she should not have died because of that. Like, I was just like, really? You're so whiny. I don't like a whiny ghost face. So I'm really happy she's alive.
Now I just want to see a ghost face mask with like a teardrop tattoo on it.
That'll be in Scream 6.
What about you, Haunted Hippie? What were your feelings about knowing Kirby's still out there?
I loved it. I actually called it. It was one of my predictions that she would still be alive. I thought she was going to be in the movie, but yeah, I was wrong. I still think that she might come back because like it's hard to tell what other meta commentary they could dive into, but I think that with her character in particular, something they could do is make commentary on like fan favorites. So like if Ghostface comes back and comes after her, it's like, you know, because she was one of the favorite characters, and it's sort of like very meta in that way because she also left acting for a while. I don't know. I think I don't know if she's even working yet again. So
that's the big thing for me. She needs to get healthy first before she comes back. I know she left acting because of mental health and stuff like that. So obviously her mental health means a whole lot more than this fucking franchise. And I love the franchise, but mental health is something you can't fuck around with, you know, especially over a film. So hopefully she gets healthy enough to where we can have her back. If not, the idea of her being out there alive is enough for me. That's what I was going to say about the whole thing is, you know, we got to make sure that the actress herself is healthy first, because that is, all of us have battled mental health issues and all of us have known people that have had mental health issues, and it's not, you know, it's not taboo. It's not something that is joked about or laughed about. Mental health is very, very serious, and it's a very serious problem in this country. And, you know, the fact that she realized she was going through something, she needed to leave something that she loved so much because of how toxic it was to her. Good for her. And I just hope that she can get healthy enough to where we can have her back. If not, at least we know that she didn't die because she was a bully. So, what about you, Justin? How do you feel about the Kirby reveal?
I was first of all, I did not notice it until after the movie. Like somebody said to me, "Did you see that Kirby Easter egg nostalgic thing?" I'm like, "What are you talking about?" And I'm like, "What?" Like when I finally saw the screenshot, I'm like, "This is amazing," because she is my second favorite character in the whole franchise after Sidney. I love Kirby. I love Hayden Panettiere. I love the character Kirby. Like it's been said, I hated, especially rewatching it. I did not like her kind of her closing in Scream 4. The fact that the Culkin brother, I can't remember the character's name, just like stabs her, and it broke my heart. Still breaks my heart when I watch Scream 4. You know, it's so funny when they were announcing all these like returning characters, like Judy was coming back. I was finger crossing. I'm like, bring back Hayden Panettiere, bring back Kirby. We've talked about it. You know, she definitely needs to be in a healthy place of mind and everything. That's the most important thing. But me as a Kirby fan, I was just crossing fingers that we were going to get her. But the fact that the directors know that people love that character, and so they threw that in there, I give them, huge props for doing that. I love that. And I would love to see her back in Scream 6. I agree with Destiny. Let her be the new kind of Sidney helping these, young adults out. That would be really interesting.
Well, because we got plenty of return. We don't need Sidney and Gail anymore. I'm not saying that in a negative way. Their story's ended. This is if you do this again, you don't have to bring back Sidney and Gail. This time, bring back Chad. Bring back Mindy. Bring back, Kirby. Like, have it be this new generation. Sidney deserves to be with her twin killer kids and Mark, and that's it. But so now, guys, we are going to get into
one more thing. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you.
No,
but I gotta give a huge shout out, and I'm totally blanking on her name, but Randy's sister in this movie. The fact that they brought back Heather, Martha, yes. Well, first of all, I love the actress. So when I saw her on screen, I'm like, yes, there she is. But yeah, I'm glad they brought back Martha. Even Martha from Scream 3, the directors rock, because that shows how much they love the franchise and they know the fans love the franchise. They brought back, they brought back Martha.
Heather Matarazzo. I think that's how you say her name, Matarazzo.
Yes.
They actually brought her back. The minute we all seen her, we all
love
knew.
it.
We were like, oh, Martha, Randy's sister. She's back.
Love her.
And she's the twins' mom.
Yeah.
So.
I love her.
Yes.
I love her.
She's
I
so
love Heather.
Fantastic.
Sorry, I had to geek out for a minute.
No, you're fine.
Okay, so on Gail, her morning show, she has a segment on bangs, and that is fucking amazing.
That is hilarious.
Because of Scream 3, her bangs were so short, and I just laughed. That is so funny.
And if you noticed, when they were in Dewey's trailer at that point, you did see Tatum's ashes in a urn back there, which I thought was cool.
I think that was the first time I cried. Not gonna lie.
I laughed so damn hard when they were trying to figure out who the killer was. And Wes was like, well, maybe it's you. You've been stabbed 1,000 times. You're drowning in a bottle. Your wife left you. And Dewey's like, well, maybe you're the killer because that cut deep.
Oh, my God.
I think this was David Arquette's.
I
think
easily best performance.
The best.
Yes.
This was his best performance out of all of them.
And to echo something Destiny said, and Ashley can be a witness to this, when James and Chelsea got on the screen, I got up and I was like, oh, I had that proud father moment. I know how much that had to mean to them to be a part of the Scream universe. So I definitely was proud father. Let's go. I'm up cheering and standing up and shit. I know them. Those are my friends on there. That's so rad. So it's really cool to see. Nobody deserves it more than them. So it was really cool to see them take that opportunity and get that chance. So, so let us now rank the Scream franchise.
Real quick. I don't mean to interrupt. I got to get my charger real quick. I'll be right back. All right. Yeah. Thank you, guys.
While we're waiting for Justin, I want to apologize for Destiny because I'm sure she knows what my least favorite Scream is. But I do want to say this, though, to everybody. There is not a movie in this franchise I dislike. There is not one movie that I watch it and I go, fuck. If any of these movies are on, I'm going to sit and watch them. I'm going to enjoy them. I'm going to wish I could buy a highlighter dress afterwards and wear it around.
My highlighter dress is at the cleaners right now because I was totally going to wear it tonight.
But, I do think that this is probably one of the best horror franchises of all time. And this was genuinely a very hard list for me to make because I do very much love every single one of these movies. So starting with my least favorite would be Scream 3. And the reasons why aren't even the fault of the film, really. We all know this movie started filming right after Columbine, the tragedy in Columbine. So this movie got really, really messed up, and rewrites and stuff taken out and stuff added in. But even with that, there are great moments. There are not so great moments. And I'm going to completely ignore the stupid voice changer. I hate that thing. I think that thing is so ludicrous. But other moments like Dewey standing at the top of the stairs and a knife hitting him in the head and him that was ridiculous. But there's also moments in this movie that make me genuinely laugh. Like when the dude's running away from Ghostface, he's like, "Oh, motherfucker!" Like that gives me a belly laugh every time I watch it. And when he literally pulls the rug out from underneath him and he does that backflip into the the crab landing, like that's so gnarly. The praying mantis landing, like it's so gnarly. But this also,
I think it's a scorpion.
yeah, scorpion, that one, some type of insect.
You're like,
thing.
Yeah.
But another thing about this movie is I don't like how they took away from what Billy and Stu did in the first one. Like, I'm a director, I made him do it. No, you didn't, man. We did it because she was no Sharon Stone. But the thing with this too is it went a little overly meta to me in this film. And another thing about this film that I did like a lot was a lot of the acting I thought was great in this film. Mm-hmm. I did like the story of them going back to LA and finding out the unfortunate things that happened to Sidney's mom that kind of turned her into the person that she was. But I just don't like Roman taking credit. And so that's really my opinions. Real quick, Cody, thank you. You heard it here first. I introduced my youngest to horror last week, and Scream is now her favorite movie ever.
Awesome.
Yes, that's awesome. Thanks for joining us, Cody, man. I can't wait to work with you again, brother. I hope everything's going good for you. So what's your least favorite, my love?
So my least favorite is also 3. Sorry, Destiny, but
Okay.
I hate that stupid voice changer thing. It like how does it have all of their voices? Like, come on, nothing like that even exists now.
Right.
In 2022, and it existed back then. And also I didn't like the killer in it. And that there was only one. I think that's the only one.
I wanted to say that too.
That only had one killer. So yeah, you pretty much touched on most of it, but it was my least favorite.
Well, let's go to you, Destiny. What's your least favorite in the franchise?
My least favorite is Scream 2. Don't get me wrong, like you said, this is my favorite franchise. I love all of these movies. This is still like 4-star for me, so I love it. Don't get me wrong. But like the older I get, the more like I watch it, I'm like, wow, this is kind of slow. Like I feel like this is the slowest moving movie to me. Like it's really like like Sidney being like in theater. Like I really don't like that like subplot, because like every time we get there, I'm like, oh, I just want to get back to like the real plot of the movie. Like I understand it's like adding stuff to her character, but it's just anytime we're back in that state, I'm just like, okay, cool. The killers, Timothy Oliphant, beautiful man. I love Mickey. Billy's mom, I like the motive for the killer, but I really just don't like her being the killer, I guess. I was just like, oh, okay, cool, sort of surprise. But it's one of those things where it's like, it's kind of like Friday 13th. It's like, well, like I get it, we're seeing her, but like, is it really fair that she's a killer just because like we don't know that's Billy's mom? But I get it, like that's the whole twist of it. But Sidney immediately recognized her, like, and I'm just like, oh. So if she would have just ran into her like 20 minutes ago, she would have known this whole time. So the killer reveals, they're not my favorite. The final act, although I do love whenever Sidney's talking shit to Mrs. Loomis, whenever she's like, I fucking killed him. Yes, anytime Sidney's like her bot, like just being a badass, that's what I love. So I like Sidney a lot, of course. Randy's death, which this didn't hit me kind of how Dewey's hit me. And I think it's because like growing up on these movies, I can't remember a time to where like I didn't know who the killers were, or, like what happened. So for me, it's never been a surprise. It's just like, oh, Randy dies, but still it does suck to see Randy go out because I love Randy. I'm kind of seeing a lot of like hate for Randy on Twitter, which sort of surprises me every time I see it. A lot of people don't like Randy. I'm just like, oh, okay. Interesting. I love Randy. And so to see him go out so early, it's kind of unfortunate. I wish we'd have had him till at least the third movie, or at least a little bit longer for this one. I like, again, that we're having issues with Dewey and Gale. I love their whole banter in that opening, and I love the whole nice streaks. Gale Weathers, to me, looks her best in this movie. I love the red streaks. I think she looks amazing. But really, it's just it just drags on a little bit too long for me. I feel like we get high and low, and then we stay low, and then it's high again. And the ending where she just walks off after her friend is dead and her boyfriend is dead, and she's just walking like nothing happened. It's like, it doesn't feel like a real ending for this movie. It's just like, all right, we're done now. So I wish the ending, at least like her send off, would have been better, but we still get more movies with her, so I like that. But Sarah Michelle Gellar, love her, love the whole chase scene with her. I thought that was excellent. But really, besides that, it's just a little bland for me.
You did bring up a good point, though. Dewey and Gail at the beginning. Page 23. That's one of my favorite parts of that whole movie. So what's your last place, Mr. Justin?
Oh my gosh, I think I'm gonna be stuck on an island with this one, and please, no one hate me. Please, I don't hate the movie. I actually really enjoy it, and this is the only one out of the franchise I really enjoy. Everything else I love. My least favorite is Scream 4. So, yeah, Scream 4 for me. And again, this is a film that I really enjoy. But it's always been a toss-up for me. You know, I had mixed feelings when I saw it in theaters. And, you know, throughout the years rewatching it, I enjoy it more. But this is a film, when it comes to the look of the movie, I'm not a fan of that slick style look that they went for, especially when you watch them all back to back. When I rewatched them recently, I was like, this one just kind of like stands out, and it doesn't stand out in a good way when it comes to the look and feel of the movie. I thought the comedy in the movie, you know, I like comedy in horror movies if it works. And I feel like some of the one-liners and just some of the comedy in this just did not work well. You know, I don't like the fact that Kevin Williamson was pretty much left midway, and you could tell that the writing is just so different from Kevin Williamson and Aaron Kruger, which we'll talk about Aaron again. You could tell that the writing changed and there was a shift in writing. And then the last nitpick I have, well, I have two other nitpicks. The opening with like the three different openings, well, I think it's clever and it could have worked. I wasn't a fan of like the three different openings. And then the reveal of the killers at the end. The reason why they were doing what they were doing. I don't know. This one for me, just every time I watch the franchise, it's not a movie I hate. I actually really enjoyed the film, but I just don't know if I'll ever love this movie. So, but Scream 4, I know that's a fan favorite, but that's not one of mine. That's my least favorite. Again, I really enjoy it though.
Okay. What about you, Haunted Hippie?
Yeah, I'll do like the same qualifier as everybody else. Like my least favorite Scream movie is still probably like top 10 favorite slasher. So list is a little bit arbitrary, but my least favorite is Scream 3, just because I think just the storyline, it's meant to be like deeply personal because it's all about Sydney's family and her mom and this secret brother and stuff. But she doesn't even share a scene with him before the reveal in the end. So there's just kind of like a disconnect for me a little bit with Scream 3, as well as the fact that I just connect with the characters the least. But MVP of that movie is Parker Posey. She is so funny. That woman is so funny. She's so great in that movie. But yeah, and also I think we get to see one of the best Sydneys in that movie because, you know, by movie 3, she's just fully kicking ass. It's great. But then you also do get to see a pretty realistic portrayal of her PTSD. So like, I think they balance that really well. But yeah, I think it's just my least favorite because it's probably my least favorite killer reveal and my least favorite opening. So yeah, there's just that. And also the LA vibes of it. It just feels a little bit impersonal, like which it's meant to because it's supposed to be like meta, the LA industry and all of the predatory stuff that goes on behind the scenes. So like it was meant to be, but I also don't love that vibe of it.
Right. See, I like how that shows you why she is who she is, but at the same time, it's like just because someone has that type of trauma doesn't mean they're going to go into that type of lifestyle. So I definitely understand. You know, everybody knows how I feel about sexual assaults in film, even. So I agree with you there. So that's everybody's last place. Let's go backwards this time. We'll start with you, Haunted Hippie. What is your fourth favorite Scream?
Yeah, I don't know if this is gonna change over time, like as I rewatch the new Scream, but at number 4 is still Scream 2 for me. And I mean, I love Scream 2, but probably my second least favorite opening. I know everybody loves that opening a lot. I just don't really. Um, yeah, I think the reason why it's not higher up is also, again, because I don't connect with the characters as much. I think, at least with, like, 1, 4, and 5, they bring in new people that you latch onto. Whereas with Scream 2, Sydney's best friend, she's completely two-dimensional. Like, they have conversations and stuff, but it's only ever in service of like learning a little bit more about where Sydney is at, kind of. And so there's just not a lot of strong character in Scream 2, though like it obviously has its amazing moments. I do really like the killer reveal, and Randy's death is very impactful. I saw these movies for the very first time when I was like a teenager, and I didn't know about his death, so like that hit home definitely because he was one of my favorite characters from the first one. So there's a lot about it that works, and yeah, I don't know. I mean, I still love it. I still love Scream 2. So
Okay. And I think, like you said, that qualifier has to stand that everybody knows that none of us think there's a bad movie in this franchise.
yeah,
All of us love every film in this franchise. So our least favorite Scream movie is still probably better than a lot of other franchises' best movie. So I agree with you there. So everybody that's like, wow, that's too low. There really isn't possible to be too high or too low in this one because they're all right around the same. What about you, Justin? You're number 4.
So number 4 for me, again, I might be a little controversy. I don't know. Right now it's Scream 2022. And the only reason why is I've only seen it once. Maybe over time it will make the list higher. But yeah, I mean, again, I love this movie. Talk about a revival. Not really a revival, but like a comeback to a franchise. And the franchise still holds up so good. I love that. If I had any, we talked about it before, but if I had any negatives with the movie, it's really just the third act. And it's not bad. It's just, it could have been so much better. It could have been stronger. And then the reveal of the killers, some of my least favorite killers next to some of the other 2 least favorite killers of mine in Scream 4. But I love a lot of things about this. You got great new characters. They're definitely, again, the best characters since the original movie. You can all tell that they have a friendship and love for each other. A lot of great surprises in this movie. I've seen the trailers, but the movie still had a lot of great surprises. And I love this. And the directors. And I gotta say, this was just a huge love for Wes Craven and what he started with Kevin Williamson. So yeah, huge shout out to the directors for that.
100%. What about you, Destiny?
Number 4 is Scream 4, which this one has like a little bit of a special place in my heart because this was like the first one that I was surprised by, because like I can actually remember watching this for the first time because I think I was like 11 or 12 when this came out. So I remember like being super excited for it, watching it on TV. Like we rented off like DirecTV. So I was so excited to like try to like figure out what's going on, who's the killers. And for me, both of the killers really surprised me. I like Jill as a killer. I think her reveal for me was like really surprising, especially because at this time I've seen her on Disney stuff. And so to see her in the Scream movie, I was like, whoa, like that's pretty crazy. And for her to be a killer, it's like, wow, I wasn't expecting that at all. But Rory Culkin as Charlie, I don't like him as a killer. And I hate to say that because I really like this actor. He's beautiful and I love a lot of the movies he's in, but I just don't like him as a killer. And I wish it was someone else so I wouldn't have to say that about him. I love Kirby. Kirby's one of my favorite characters out the whole franchise. I like the opening. I think it's kind of fun. Plus, I like the fact that we get to see, like, for me, it's like, oh my God, Lucy Hale, like, I know her. Or I get to see all these characters that I already recognize, but we get to see so many of them. So I thought that was kind of fun. It was kind of upping the meta-ness, and I like that. I love Courtney Cox in this one. I love this scene whenever they're at the high school and she's like, "Where's the circle jerk happening?" And I watch like the behind the scenes of them trying to film that, and they can't stop laughing. You could just feel like the love there. I don't know. I just love it. I agree. The sheen of the movie, it's super shiny. A lot of the scenes, it's like overexposed too much. Like the whole book signing scene, I was just like, whoa, that's a little bit too bright. I don't like that. But this has become like my go-to Scream movie. If I'm not watching the original, I'm probably gonna put on Scream 4 just like for background noise. For some reason, it just really connects with me. I don't know. I like the motive because I feel like the motive is still relevant, and I think that motive is always going to be relevant just with like social media, how it is now. And I feel like in that way, it was a little bit ahead of its time because that was 2011, and here we are, and it's just getting worse. So I feel like the motive is always going to live on. But yeah, Charlie being killer, don't like it. But I do like the characters as a group. I think they're a lot of fun. And then up until Scream 5, like for me, this is probably the most brutal Scream movie we've gotten, especially Olivia's death. I thought her death was fantastic. Oh, nitpick. You have Adam Brody in your horror movie, and you're not going to utilize that to the fullest extent.
Yeah.
Right.
Again,
Right.
Jennifer's body. Give me more. I need more of him. So if they would have really done more with his character, I would have just, anytime he's on screen, I want more of him. So yeah, still love it, but compared to the others, I don't know.
Yeah.
And it's funny because we are also big Adam Brody. I about said Seth Brody. Adam Brody. Seth from the OC. Yeah, we
Ready or Not.
him. What's that?
Ready or Not.
He's in the movie Ready or
Yeah.
Not.
Yeah, he's the brother.
Which is another film by the same directors of Scream 2022. So love that. I love Ready or Not.
Yeah.
So good.
So do you want to give yours, babe?
Yeah, my number 4 is Scream 4. I didn't care for the opening, the fake out. I didn't like that all that much. I do like the gore in 4 though. Like how Olivia gets, like her guts are hanging out and how they're watching her from the window. Like they think that Scream is in, or Ghostface is in the closet, but it's actually in Olivia's closet. I like that part. And like he really goes to town on her, and then her guts are hanging out. I also like Officer Perkins' death, where he like gets stabbed in the forehead and then he gets out and he's like trying to swing at Ghostface and then he just lands.
That's another person that you really should have utilized more in this film. Like him and Adam Brody were both great. Like it really bums me out there. Both cut so short.
Like you said, Destiny, I don't care for Charlie as a killer. Because like I don't know, he was a nerd in school and nobody noticed him, and so he's going to be famous by being a sole survivor. Well, actually, she ended up killing him, but and then Jill getting like the 360 joules to the head in the hospital. I thought that was pretty cool. So yeah, number 4 for me is Scream 4.
Yeah, I'm right on the same page as you guys. Scream 4. I'm just gonna come out and say it. I fucking hate the opening. Like, I was ready to shut the movie off at that point. I was so pissed. Like, this is the dumbest shit.
Is this finally the opening?
Yeah, I've ever seen in my life. Now, again, I'm a pretty little liar, so Lucy Hale had me quite excited. But
yeah,
and a Paquin for me.
Like, come on, stop beating the dead horse here. To me, it just wasn't funny. It didn't fit. And a lot of the movie, I feel like we were talking about like dragging. I feel like a lot of this movie drags. The only thing that really kept it to me was Kirby. I think this is Neve Campbell's worst performance as Sidney too. She just felt bland in this movie. I do love it. Like I said, I love the ending. I know a lot of people bitch about the thing is don't fuck with the original, and she gives her the shock to the head. Like I thought that was awesome. Like I thought that was super rad. So, but a lot of it, the live streaming stuff was cool, doing it for the blog. Like, I really liked that idea. Like you said, even back then, like I always said that's one thing I respected about Halloween Resurrection too. Like they kind of had that a little bit ahead of the time. The rest of the movie's dog shit, but, and that's what I liked about this movie. They were really trying to, I like the motive more than I did Scream 2022. We're going to be famous. I'm going to be the new final girl. This is going to be our survivor. So I did like that. So, mine is Scream 4. So, Justin, would you like to start us off this time with your third pick?
I will. And I will say, this is Scream 4. Nev Campbell's performance of that could have been better. I think that's another nitpick I had with it. So when you mentioned that, I was like, okay. But anyway, coming in at number 3 for me is Scream 3. I love this movie. I really do. I think even over time, I love it more. My only nitpick with this movie is, and I don't think it's terrible writing, but you could tell that it's not Kevin Williamson.
Yeah.
What I love about Kevin Williamson and his writing in general in TV and movies is he knows how to write characters. And I think besides the amazing Parker Posey, who I love, and you're obsessed with her and you're obsessed with her daughter. I love that line. And the original characters that came back, a lot of the other new characters, except for Mark. Okay, I'm backtracking a little bit. Most of the new characters, while they weren't bad, they weren't characters that you latched on to too much. And again, it's because we're missing Kevin Williamson. I think Aaron Kruger did a good job with this movie. But, you know, I hate to say it, it's no Kevin Williamson. Mm-hmm. Things I love about this. If this would have been a trilogy, I would have been really happy with it. I like the way that the movie, I like the fact that Sidney at the end of this movie has that closure. Mm-hmm. That when you get to the end of the film, she looks outside her door and she realizes things are okay. I'm going to be okay. I love that. I love the opening. I think rewatching it is a very suspenseful opening. While it's like my probably top 4 favorite opening of the franchise, I think it's great. And it surprised me that Liev Schreiber died so early on in this movie. So that was a surprise right there. Again, Parker Posey, amazing. I think she's definitely one of my favorite characters in the franchise. And I'm one that actually I love the reveal of the killer. I like the fact that while Stu and Billy are definitely more iconic as killers, I like the fact that he was kind of behind everything. You know, Billy and Stu were definitely the first killers, but I like the fact that he was the one that pushed them in that direction and said, look, there you go. I'm going to hand it to him. But I liked it. So I know people are 50-50 with the ending, but I really like the third act. I like the reveal of Roman. And I'm actually one that likes the fact that this is the only Scream movie that only has one killer. So that kind of makes it stand out a little bit for me in a positive way. So sure. Scream 3, I love it. I think it's the one underrated one of the franchise.
Okay.
If I ramble, by the way, I apologize, guys. So
no, I love
it.
I absolutely love hearing everything you have to say. What about you, Destiny? What's your middle of the road?
My third one will be Scream 2022, just because, you know, I've only seen this movie once and it's kind of hard. It's hard for me. Like, I have so much nostalgia with these other, especially my top 2. It's like, it can't, even though I think this one is definitely, you know, better. I don't want to say better directed because I don't want to go against Wes Craven like that. But the script, I think, is definitely better in 5 compared to maybe my number 2 choice. But still, I think for me, this feels like the most Scream-like out of the Scream franchise besides the original Scream. Like we said earlier, I love this cast. I love maybe besides Liv. They could have done a little bit more with Liv because I feel like she's the only kind of like, not dud, but they don't give her much to do except for be with Kyle. But that's about it. Kyle Gallner. Beautiful man. But, you know, like I said earlier, the third act could have been a little bit more not over the top, but just more. Just give me some more, you know, 5 in. I want to see something pretty crazy. I like that we have Amber in the ghost, which actually, when Amber shows back up in that ghost face costume, I was like, holy shit, we have a third killer. But no, it was just Amber. And I was like, oh, okay, cool. But I wish we would have had more. Like, I would have loved to see Richie take off the mask just because I do love that. Even though it's not the first one, I love a good pulling off the mask and be like, I'm the killer. So I wish I would have done more with that because to me, it's so good. But besides that, just because I love these other 2 so much, that's why this one sits here. But I really don't have too much to nitpick with the movie. I absolutely love it. I don't know how often I will rewatch it because of Dewey's death. Or if I rewatch it, I'll probably skip past it. Not even gonna lie. Because I'm gonna cry every time. I'm a very emotional person, especially when it comes to these movies I love. So whenever I was watching it in theaters, I was like, damn, I can't watch this that often. I can't do it just because I'm gonna be crying every time. But I still love it. I think it was great. For it being my first movie in theater, and I walked out super happy. Halloween Kills was my first Halloween movie in theaters, and I didn't walk out feeling the way I wanted to feel. So to actually walk out of a movie I was really anticipating, and it being my favorite franchise, I was like, wow, this is exactly what I wanted. Like, there's really not much I would change. So it's definitely up there.
Yeah. And I agree with some of the things you said, and I'll talk about that here in just a bit. What about you, Haunted Hippie? What's your middle of the road?
Mine is the same. I almost thought about putting it in my number 2 spot because I love the characters so much, but it's like Destiny said, like Liv just she kind of bugged me. Like she didn't do anything, and then in the very end she was like a red herring, like you know what happens to the expert. It's like okay. Anyways, yeah, so and then I didn't love the killer reveal, but everything else about the movie I really loved. I think it's just the third act and the reveal and like the killer's motivations is really the only thing holding me back from putting it up higher. Because it's like you said, I left the theater and I was jazzed. Like I woke up the next day in a good mood. Like it really had a lasting impact on me. So yeah.
What about you, my love? What's your middle of the road?
Mine's also Scream 5. I love the cast also. I think the OG cast did phenomenal. These new kids that, they're kind of passing the torch to did amazing. I did not like the motive. I thought it was really weak. But other than that, like I really enjoyed this movie and I had a lot of fun with it. Like I had already said, I think David Arquette did an amazing job and his comedy really landed with me. So yeah, overall, I really enjoyed this movie.
My middle of the road, I went back and forth between these ones, but you know what? I've landed on it. Scream 2 is my middle of the road. And it's just because I think, as much as I don't like the third act in Scream 2022, I think the third act in Scream 2 is probably the weakest, dropping fake boulders on Mrs. Loomis. The only good part, and we have a show named after this, but when you get the reveal of Billy's mother, and you get Billy's mother, didn't see it coming, did you? Like, I love that shit. Like, I love it. And I love Scream 2. I love Jerry O'Connell, getting up on the tables and saying, I love you. Like, this is something I can fuck with. Like, I'm a romantic guy. Like, I love that shit. So, the fat kid from Stand By Me is laying it all on the line. So,
I love Jerry O'Connell. Yeah,
I really did dig it. So, and like I said, the top 3 especially are so interchangeable. I think the big thing holding this one back for me is you get what's the guy's name? Josh. He was in Dawson's Creek. Josh.
Joshua Jackson.
Joshua Jackson.
House 2, a second story.
Yes, you get him saying House 2, a second story is better than House, and that's just upsetting. That's like giving House a 2 or 3 star rating. Kylie. But anyway, I digress. So I mean, I love Scream 2, but that's one thing to me that was just like, oh, come on, But the big thing for me too is Randy's death. I was Randy. Like, and I'm not making this up. Like, I grew up in a video store. I was that guy that would have friends over at my house, and I'd put on a horror movie and be like, okay, guys, listen, you got to watch. You got to pay attention to this and this. Like, that was me growing up. And to watch him go out, I was literally like, no, why, God? I felt like I lost a member of my family at that point. So my middle of the road is going to be Scream 2. So let's get to our silver medal. You want to start us off this time, Destiny?
Yeah, so my number 2 is Scream 3. I know this one gets shit on a lot, but I fucking love it. Do I know it's a mess? Yes. Do I care? Absolutely not. Growing up, this was my favorite to watch. This one was like, if I was watching a Scream movie and if it wasn't the original, it was Scream 3. Because to me, this one is just so campy. It's so fun. I love the fact that they're in LA and they're making a stab movie. It's just like, whoa, a little bit of a mind fuck. I like it. I like that we have like our doubles, even though I agree these characters are not as strong, but Parker Posey carries them on her fucking back, and I love her for it. She is one of my all-time favorite characters of this franchise. When she is on screen, I'm looking at her. I love her fucking weird outfits. They look so good on her. Don't know how, but they look amazing. I love her and Gail, especially when they're doing their research and they're investigating. And I like Roman. But for me, like, just because these movies are just like, I don't know, for me, it never took away from the fact that Billy and Stu are the killers in the original.
Yeah.
Like, I understand that that's what it's pretty much saying, but for me, it's like, I don't care. Like, I watch it, I'm like, yes, Roman's the killer, awesome. Even though Billy and Stu, those are my number one favorite killers. Like, I love them so much. It's never taken that away from me, just because, I don't know, it's just been implemented in my brain for so long. It's just, I don't care. And I think this is my favorite third act. This with Sidney, like you said, she just doesn't care when she's screaming at Roman, saying like, this is your fault because of you. Like, you have no one else to blame but you. And they're like, fuck you. And they go at each other. It's just, every time I watch this ending, I'm just so amped. Even though I've seen it like a million times at this point, I'm just like, yes, get them. I think it's so good. I think this is Sidney, like, this is probably my favorite Sidney out of all of them, just because you could really tell, like she says, like, I am over this shit already. And so I love it. The voice changer, for some reason, growing up, I never realized what that was. Even when they're like, she's like, Dewey, they have our voices. It's just, I didn't question it. And it's funny, like, anytime I think about that, I do think of Dead Meat's Kill Count, when he's like, how do they have their voices? But I just love it. It's so goofy and it's kind of dumb, but for me, it's just so charming. I could watch this movie at any point. It's a comfort movie for me. If I'm sad, I'll put this on. I'm going to have a fantastic time. So I just love it.
Can I just real quick, I'm glad you love Scream 3 too. But I love Parker Posey's line where they're downstairs and they're talking to Carrie Fisher's character. Stage name. You should talk.
Yeah.
What's her name? Jurgenstein or whatever?
Yeah. Like, so offended.
She's like, oh man.
Like,
you're obsessed.
They know.
I love that. She's like, oh man.
Well, let's stick with you now, Justin. What's your number two?
Oh gosh. Okay, so I was telling you, this was so tough for me. And it'll probably change in the future. But my number two is actually the original Scream. So I have mad love for this movie. I think we all do, but I love this film. My memory seeing with this movie go back to living in Oregon and my older sister, myself, and some friends walking to the mom and pop video store. And you had Scream on VHS there. And you would take the tape behind the case and go rent it. We watched it like 3 times before we took it back. That is like one of my favorite memories with Scream. I really, really love this. From the direction by Wes Craven, beautifully directed, to Kevin Williamson as a writer. I mean, he's fantastic. To the cast, I mean, I love this cast. Not only do I love Sidney and Gail and Dewey, but I love Tatum. She's one of my favorite characters. I love Randy. I love Stu. I know they're the killers, but there's something about them you love. The cast is amazing, and the opening to Scream is still very effective. It's still one of my favorite openings.
Yeah.
I love the fact that they, had Drew Barrymore on the poster, and you were thinking she was going to be, the final girl. She was going to be the one to survive the entire film. When that they tricked everybody, and she was the opening kill. Scream for me, it holds a special place in my heart. I will always love this movie. I adore this movie. I think 25 years later, this movie is still groundbreaking. It revived the horror movie genre, and I give it mad love and credit for that too. So yeah, Scream, while it lands in at number 2 for me, I love this film. And it gave me one of my favorite final girls, my favorite final girl, and that is Sidney Prescott.
Yeah.
Campbell.
I mean, this movie has 2 final girls, even now still. So
yeah,
that's
true.
Yeah.
always cool, man. What about you, Haunted Hippie? What's your silver medal?
My number 2 is Scream 4 because I actually really like the opening because I distinctly remember the first time that I watched it, I was tricked both times by both of the fake openings. So it was actually like it really worked for me. And also like I loved seeing Lucy Hale and was it Kristen Bell?
Yeah.
Is that her name?
Yes. Yeah.
I adore her. Love Lucy Hale as well. And so like that just worked for me because also like you have these big actors in it. Like Adam Brody, I know it's kind of a complaint that they like underuse some of these bigger actors, but also for me, when bigger actors are in a movie, like even in smaller roles, it's just like comforting. Like it's just nice because like, oh my God, like, you know, Adam Brody's there and that's a good time. And I also really love the killer motives as well. Like I don't really mind Rory as much because honestly, like the world that we're growing up in today with like men on the internet, it's really not that far-fetched for me that he would engage in that kind of extreme incel behavior. Like I buy into it. Like I honestly I get it. Like and then with Jill, it's pretty much like I don't want to rehash everything Destiny said because like she was spot on. Like it was so ahead of its time and there's people on YouTube that are doing pranks like robbing banks as a prank and then they get arrested and go to jail for real. Like this stuff is actually happening and so I really admire the writing of Scream 4 because it does feel very real to me and like she said I think it will stand up for a really long time as well. So yeah, I think because it has some of my favorite like opening and like third act. Oh, as well as the characters. That was something I mentioned as well. Like some of my favorite characters of the entire franchise as well are in Scream 4. So it's a big comfort movie, I would say.
What about you, my love?
Number 2 for me is Scream 2. I love this movie. I didn't expect the killers at all. Even if the way like the rocks fall on Mrs. Loomis is kind of lame. And then I thought it was Cotton Weary. Weird as that sounds, like I thought that he totally had motive to be a killer, you know, with her like blaming him for her mom's death and stuff. But yeah, I didn't suspect the killers. And I one of the complaints I have about this movie is where they're in the cop car and they like climb over Ghostface. And they don't like demask him or like try to kill him or anything. They just run away and then they come back and like he's gone. Like you totally had the chance to figure out who he was, and they didn't. But
yeah, that's such a bummer.
Yeah, but yeah, number 2 for me, Scream 2.
Number 2 for me is Scream 2022. If you'd have asked me 2 weeks ago, this would have been lower, but I watched it again and. The big problem I had with it, like I said off the rip, was I'm not a very smart man, but when I could pick something out like that, I knew who the killers were quite early. But then once I get past that, the brutality of this movie is intense. A Scream movie has not had my anxiety going for a long period of time like this one did when Judy was trying to get home to Wes. You know, like that suspense there was so damn great, you know, because you already had the West, you know, shutting all the things. Is the killer going to jump out now? Is the killer going to jump out now? And, you know, I thought we were going to get a shower scene with Wes from Psycho. You ever seen the movie Psycho? I was like, I have. I know what you're talking about. So that, you know, the suspense of that scene alone was just so fucking great. And I know I bashed earlier them talking about elevated horror or whatever. But I really thought that the way they included a type of elevated horror into this slasher was great. But they stayed to the core of being a slasher. Like I said, Judy's death right out in the open in the daytime in her front yard, overkill, was awesome. And this movie is the only Scream movie that's ever made tears come out of my face. So like that scene with Dewey and Gail, like I like reached over and held Ashley's hand and I was like, "You're never allowed to go to New York." You know, like, so it was just these things that with this movie that like I felt that was real. Like that was David and Courtney, and to have those two acting opposite of each other that well, and seeing Gail's heartbreak when Dewey's getting taken out on that stretcher. And the amount, like, I know people sometimes bitch about the amount of fan service, but I'm a fan. Service me.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I want. I want to be serviced as a fan. I love the fan service they had in this movie, whether it was Tatum's ashes or, you know, Kirby's Easter egg or James and Chelsea. You know, they knew that fans were going to go into that and see James and Chelsea and go absolutely fucking batshit, you know? So the more I watch this movie, the more I like it, but it'll never overtake the number one spot, I don't believe. But third act aside, I love the opening. I love how they take what Scream has always done and flip it on its head. You know, we're going to keep this person alive so we can bring you back, you know, and I love that. And again, Red Right Hand, which is funny because when I hear Red Right Hand, I think of Dumb and Dumber. Like, that's the first thing that always pops in my head, and then it goes to Scream. But it's just one of those things that I did enjoy it, and I'm so glad that Scream and Halloween are showing that horror is very much alive in cinema, even during a pandemic. And a slasher can still bring in just as much money as anything else. And it's so awesome to see these people. I had an employee that works with me text me today and say, "Hey, I just seen the new Scream. Now that I've seen it, we could talk about it. What are your feelings?" And this person's not a huge horror fan. But that's what this movie's doing, is it's bringing people into the horror genre that weren't into it yet. And you know what? Come on in. Come on, let's watch some movies. Let's talk some horror together. Like, I love when people come up to me and they're like, "Hey, I see you have a shirt that has Chucky on it. I like Chucky too." I'm like, "And I like you. Let's talk." You know, then they end up being like, "Wow, this guy's weird." But yeah, you want to play? So, I mean, I love what this movie is doing 25 years after the first one did it. You know, the first one started that. Like, and it's funny because as a punk rock kid in the 90s, that grew up in a school where there was more corn stalks than people, I was kind of pissed when Scream came out. Like, I loved Scream, don't get me wrong, but then horror was becoming trendy in my little brain. You know, like, fuck you, I liked horror before Scream. You know? I liked punk rock before Green Day. You know, that type of shit. So Scream was the Green Day of horror movies to me for a long time. But now that I'm older, Green Day still rocks. Scream's still great. So that's how I feel about Scream 2022. I think it really did bring back, and I think that we're going to be seeing more slashers and more horror movies topping the charts again because of what Scream and Halloween are doing for our community. So before we get to our number one, I just want to take some time, again, not just thank you guys for taking time out of your Saturday night to come and hang out with us, but everybody over there in the chat. I know we haven't been responding to the chat as much because we're not really doing a top 10 this time, and we do want to keep the topic strictly on Scream, but I promise you I've been reading everything. And like right here, Vinny, I promise you we all noticed Red Right Hand. Everybody, you know, geeked out at it. And I appreciate you guys.
Totally.
You know, you're taking time out of your night, a Saturday night with the Royal Rumble. You know, I'm going to be watching Royal Rumble as soon as this is over, but you guys are like, "Hey, horror, awesome. Let's do this." So thank you guys for taking time out of your Saturday night to come and hang out with us and talk about horror movies. We appreciate you so much. And I hope everybody has an amazing weekend in about a half hour when we're done. So you haven't got to start us off yet, my love. What is your favorite Scream and why?
So I have to go with Scream, the original. It changed horror genre, and
so much.
I just absolutely love that movie. The self-awareness that it brought to it, and the humor, Stu's humor, he was over the top, but it totally landed for me. My mom and dad are gonna be so mad at me. Like, you got me with the phone, Dick. I love it. And everything that comes with it.
Yeah.
I honestly didn't, expect Billy, especially after he got like stabbed by Ghostface. Like, I thought, oh shit, he's not really a killer, even though he's got killer eyes, and he really is a killer. But I never expected it. And it's just my favorite, and I think it always will be. I don't think anything will top it.
And I don't think people really remember how much of a twist it was that Billy Loomis, because it's all second nature to us now. but we're like, oh, we watched him die. He's dead.
Yeah, like he was stabbed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We all go a little mad sometimes. You're like, Mr. Loomis, what the hell?
Yeah.
You know, so it was a great twist. You didn't see it coming, did you? So,
I didn't.
yeah, I totally agree with you. So, what about you, Destiny? What's your favorite Scream?
Yeah, it's the original. I love this movie. This is my all-time favorite movie, so it has to be my number one for this. I love it so much. This is like my number one comfort movie. I can put this on at any time and have a great time. This is a movie I love showing people that haven't seen it. It's so much fun to watch it with people who haven't seen this. Like almost every Halloween, if I have a Halloween party, this movie's on just because it's just the perfect vibe for a party, just hanging out with friends. There's not one thing about this movie that I don't like. For me, this is maybe besides Ghostface kind of popping up in the bushes and in the convenience store. I was just like, okay, a little much, but literally besides those two little nitpicks, this is a perfect movie for me. I love the killer reveals. I love this cast so much. This is my favorite cast. There's not one character that I don't like. I feel like everyone is they have such an important role, even if it's not the main lead. Every character is important. I love it so much. It's so clever. And like I said earlier, watching this without actually having that surprise and twist, it wasn't until I watched like Zach Cherry, he did like Who Killed Who in the movies, and I went and I watched his video and I was like, oh wow, like there's so much stuff that I never even pieced together after seeing this movie so many times. And I feel like with each rewatch, I'm still figuring out new stuff about it. Like there was a scene with at the end whenever Randy and Billy shows up at the house and they're like as if it's like, really, Alicia? And me being a dumbass, Clueless is my favorite non-horror movie, and I didn't realize that was Clueless until like last year. I was just like, see, this is what I mean. Like I'm still figuring it out. So for them to even mention like my other favorite movie, I thought that was fantastic, even if I was a little bit slow to it. But it's just, I think it's amazing. It's fantastic. I love every second of it. Sydney's my favorite final girl. Scream's my favorite franchise. I'm a bit of a Scream slut, if you can't tell. I love Scream so much.
Mm-hmm. And with good reason. What about you, Kylie? What's your favorite?
Yeah, obviously the original. Like there's not too much more to add to the conversation, but one thing I love too is like our final girl got laid,
Yeah.
So that's just something that's unique and still isn't really done in a lot of slashers. Like most final girls still, like there's not really that romantic aspect to it, but Sydney got laid and then she kicked ass.
By
So
the killer. She got laid by the killer.
which is
Yeah.
another thing to unpack.
Right.
But yeah. So yeah, I mean there's not really much to add there, what hasn't been said about the original.
What about you, Justin?
All right.
Holy shit.
So
Hold on, real quick. I just realized this is Divinity. This is who I was talking about, the one that texted me earlier. Hey, Vinny. The name threw me off. I just seen the last name. We were talking about the person that texted me about Scream 2022. It was Divinity. What's up, buddy? Glad to see you came out. Sorry, Justin. I just realized who that was. That made me super stoked.
So like I said, this was so hard because I love the original so much. And it'll probably change every time I watch it, but Scream 2 is my favorite Scream right now. My memories with this, it doesn't have like a huge impact like Scream did, but I do remember either we bought this on VHS or we rented it on VHS from Blockbuster. And I instantly loved it when I saw the movie. I love the opening. I think while it's not as suspenseful as like the original Drew Barrymore opening, I think it's pretty intense and pretty eerie. I love the characters in this movie. I like the fact that this movie, after the original film, is actually an awesome sequel, which sometimes it's rare that you get a strong sequel after an original movie. So I like that. I like that it ups the stakes and the fact that Randy dies in this movie. I think it surprised everybody when they first saw it. It definitely surprised me. So the fact that they upped the stakes, that's great. I love Sarah Michelle Gellar's in this movie. Being a huge Sarah Michelle Gellar fan, that was amazing. And I love her, and I know we did last summer as Helen, so that was pretty awesome to see her. Two great chase scenes by the same actress. Third act for me. Mickey, I saw him coming as a killer, but when I first saw the reveal of Laurie Metcalf, Debbie Salt doesn't exist. It's Mrs. Loomis. I thought it was great. I still think it's great. And the fact that like she can go from like this kind of sweet reporter and then switch to Mrs. Loomis and just have that vengeful side, that's a great performance. And then, Neve Campbell, Sidney Prescott, I think she's just great in all the movies. She was great in the first movie, but for me, this is my favorite performance as Sidney Prescott. I love the third act when she is going head to head with Mrs. Loomis. I fucking killed him. I love that line. It's such a great line. Yeah, I mean, for me, it's Scream 2 right now, but it could change between Scream and Scream 1. But Scream 2 right now at the moment is my favorite one.
Okay. So I'm the only one that hasn't gone, right?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I don't think it's any surprise. It's Scream. Now, when I talk about Scream, something that I always talk about is I don't throw around the word masterpiece very often. And I think that Scream is a masterpiece. Do I think it's a perfect movie? No. There are definitely flaws in it that really irritate me a lot. One being Tatum stuck in the garage door. There's no fucking way that garage door would still rise.
Very strong.
Having the titties of death is not fun, I'm sure. But another thing that really bothers me about this movie is when you get Sydney there at the end and she's in the house and you see Randy and Stu and she's like, fuck you both. And she shuts the door. Like, bitch, if I was Randy, I'd be like, you just saw me on TV with a killer behind me. You know it's not me. Why are you leaving me out here, you dick? So that's one thing for me. And then every time, I want you guys to really listen to what I'm about to say right now. Every time there's a Kenny in a horror movie, the fucker dies.
Mm-hmm.
Every time.
A Kenny in anything.
Yeah, whether it's South Park, Boy Meets World even.
Yeah.
And then there was Sean. We'll always remember he was that tall. It's always Kenny. He always dies and it pisses me off. I see the cameraman, I was like, he's fucked. He's done. That's a wrap. Write his eulogy. But it is funny. It's smart. And I've said this more times than people probably care to admit they've heard me say, but look at the horror movies that came out 2 years before Scream and 2 years after Scream and tell me that Scream didn't revitalize the horror genre. Whether you love it or you hate it, Scream made a huge difference in the horror world and for the better. Wes Craven dipped his toes in the water with Wes Craven's New Nightmare going into the meta world, and he did a total swanton bomb into the pool with Scream, and he really, really knocked it out of the park. And the characters are awesome. Like you said, you can't hate Billy or Stu. Like, they're killers. Like, and then every time we talk about this, like Stu, everything he does, like live her alone. Like he's charming as shit. And every time those guys are on screen, like you said, when they're in the video store, he's like, why do you think it's Billy? And he's like, well, now that you think I have a chance with her? As if. That's all I'm going to say. As if. Like, the chemistry of that whole cast, you can see that they had just a wonderful time. The whole cast, I think, is phenomenal. Randy Meeks is one of my favorite people in horror ever. He's so horror intelligent, and he worked in a video store, and he was all drunk on the couch, like, behind you, Jamie, behind you.
I love
like,
that.
Yeah. And, we have so many horror tropes that are broken in this movie, the killer having sex with the final girl and the final girl surviving. You even get some of the funniness of, I'm going to grab another beer. You want one? No. I'll be right back. Like, this shit is just great. It's just gold. It lands so well. our next episode of Didn't See That Coming is actually on Scream. So we just went back and did a deep dive dissection and rewatched the whole movie. And there's so many parts of this movie that I watch now, and they're just so awesome. Like, the movie is it's a masterpiece. Like I said, I don't throw that word around very often. Like, there's maybe 5 horror movies that I think are true masterpieces, and this is one of them. You know, even Henry Winkler as the principal, you know, like, yeah, you know, like, and even the homages Wes pays to himself, with Wes himself in the Freddy Krueger sweater, being the janitor, you know, like, it's so great. And it's a movie that changed my life. At 14 years old, I went to get a ghost face tattoo, and I was talked into instead getting the actual Scream painting.
Cool.
So that's how much this movie means to me. I mean, like I said, it pissed me off when it first came out. You know, I was like, oh, this movie's gonna ruin horror, and it didn't. You know, it saved horror, and I appreciate what this movie did, and I appreciate what these actors and actresses and writers and directors. You've never had, like, you have, like, you know, these bands that break up and they're like, I would never do that again. Or, you know, you had Kevin Bacon with Tremors, like, fuck Tremors. You've never had someone come out and say, fuck Wes, fuck Scream. Yeah. Everybody is so appreciative of what this movie has done and what this movie has done for their careers and for the horror community as a whole. So there's nobody else I would have rather talked about this franchise with than you four. And I really appreciate everybody taking the time out. So before we sign off for the night, so everybody can get back to Royal Rumble,
I'm sure that's what everybody's
I'm sure, yeah, everybody's just like itching to see Rhea Ripley win.
I know, I can't wait.
But we're going to open the chat up a little bit. We haven't been very active with the chat. We've been watching and we've been reading, but if you got any questions for myself or Ashley, Destiny, Haunted Hippie, Justin, if you have any questions, let us know now. While we're waiting, Haunted Hippie, do you have anything coming up on the channel you'd like to share with us?
Nothing too crazy. I do have some special Valentine's Day content. I'm gonna do a original verse remake of My Bloody Valentine, so I'm excited. I haven't actually seen either of those movies yet, so I'm excited to do a little deep dive. Just filmed a physical media collection update, and I brought back with me from my parents' house a bunch of DVDs from my childhood, so like we're getting in deep pretty soon with that. Yeah, that's about it.
Nice.
What about you, Justin? You got anything coming up on the channel you want to talk about? I know Justin's been kind of a little hiatus, so
yeah,
we're finally coming back. That's why Justin was a late addition to this stream tonight. But he hit me up earlier and was like, "I'm streaming again, bitch." I was like, "All right, you're in." Justin didn't really call me a bitch. I would actually be flabbergasted.
No.
I don't know if I'd be excited or bummed.
I'm a rare cusser. So, well, first of all, I have to throw this out there. Does anybody else love the line that Tatum says, "Stupidity League," when she grabs the sucker and she's like, I love that. All right, going back. I always rewind. I apologize. But what's coming up? Yes, I am back. Took a little bit of a break. So tomorrow I'm going to be filming favorite physical media releases for 2021 when it comes to horror movies. So stay tuned for that. And also, this inspired me to come up with the ranking of the late 90s, early slasher films that we got from the late 90s and 2000s. So stay tuned for that. It's going to be a lot of fun. So
can't wait.
Yeah, I'm glad to be back. And thank you. It was great chatting with all of you guys. So
yeah.
During the episode, I did put Destiny's Instagram down here in the description as well. So before you guys sign off, if you wouldn't mind, follow Destiny on Instagram. Please subscribe to Kylie and Justin, to Haunted Hippie and Rhine1988. And please, if this is your first time here, hit that subscribe button. We'd love to have you along. We do have a question here real quick. Do you guys believe Angelina was the second killer in Scream 3 if there was going to be a second killer? I could have seen that. I could have totally seen that.
So she was... So when they wrote the script, she was originally a killer in this. So like when you see moments where you think, oh, she could be the killer, I think... Yeah, she was originally one of the killers, and I think it was Kevin Williamson's idea. I could be wrong, but when Kevin Williamson left, I think they scrapped that. So, but yeah, I think she was supposed to be a killer.
Yeah, I could have seen that.
Mm-hmm.
For me, I was convinced that it was Mark, which he I think originally was also supposed to be one of the killers. So, but yeah, she was sus as well. Like especially when she was in the house, it's like you're here, okay, yeah.
Right. What about you, Destiny?
Yeah, I definitely think so. And I think it's kind of fun to rewatch that and try to like suspect that she could be the killer, because I like to try to watch it and be like, think she is a killer the whole time, and then Roman just kills her off. Like even though she's a killer, she just, because even I have like the Scream like box set, like the first three and like the DVD set, and I think there's like a little pamphlet that comes in it, and it does all the it's everyone that like died in the movie. But she's not on this, and neither is Roman. Like the killers aren't on it, and so like it's pretty interesting when you look at that. Be like, oh, so she was supposed to be a killer. I do like that there's only one, because I think it stands out for me in a good way. But I think it's an interesting watch if you watch it, knowing that she was a killer and then she just gets killed off.
That maybe she was helping Roman the whole time, and he was like, "Psych, bitch."
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's bam.
So
Steven, everybody appreciates
Thank
it.
you.
Thank you, buddy. So coming up on Sledgehammer Horror, everybody knows what's coming up this week. Kylie, God damn it, Haunted Hippie. We also did our verses on My Bloody Valentine. It will be premiering on February 14th. So we're biting on your shit again. I can't wait to watch your episode and see. Our verses for March will be Child's Play, and our verses for April will be April Fool's Day. So we've got those all ready to go. I can't wait for you guys to see these. And then we are going to this Thursday. It just happened recently, but I interviewed one of the producers of the Shudder original film, The Long Night, which is coming out next Friday on Shudder, which stars Scout Taylor Compton. Very fun movie. I enjoyed it very much. Very brutal. Lots of twists and turns. Great visuals. So that'll be out on Thursday. Make sure you guys check that out on Friday. Again, guys, thank you so much for coming. Our next live will be a week from today. We will be joined by Mark O. Estes and Bobby Likes It Spooky, and we will be counting down our top 10 favorite horror openings. So we'll be talking about Scream again next week. I promise you.
at least one of them.
Yeah, at least one of them. So make sure you guys, like I said, if you're watching this live or you're watching this on a replay, don't forget to subscribe to these two beautiful people. Don't forget to follow this beautiful person on Instagram. And as always, guys, keep talking horror.
Say what you are.
And we'll see you guys soon.
Bye, guys.